Dear ones, those of you who are staying for the meeting, let's make our way back to the pews, please and thank you. Dear ones, let's make our way back to our pews. As Fraser once said to his brother, walk and talk. Walk your way back to the pews. Deacons, can y'all see if we have enough people? Should we be whatting? You could do that, but also we need to know how many people we have. Like, we need 50, yeah. Friends and family, come on back to the pews, would you please? Bring that coffee with you. Come on over. Come on down, my little friends. I see some of you diligently ignoring me, which I appreciate, but come on, my friends. Come on down. Come along, my friends. Let us come and sit down. Visitors, you are, of course, invited to stay. There are those who would say that a budget is a snapshot of a picture's heart. Church's heart is on display. Come on down. Come along, my friends. Come on over. I see some of our actual members. We definitely need members to come and sit down because we need your votes. Come on over, little friends. Thank you, Bob. Very good, very good. Thank you all, thank you. So glad y'all are here. The first thing we need to do before we do anything else is establish that we have 50 people. Now in the Presbyterian Church, that would be the clerk of session would make that decision or make that count. So deacons, can you please help and report back to the microphone whether we have 50 voters, be they proxy or present? Because otherwise, we're just going to be talking to each other. If you are a proxy, please raise your hand. Yep. If you are a proxy, please raise your hand now. Thank you. Keep it up for just a moment. I'm sorry, friends, we do not have 50 people that are available for voting. We have 2 people saying that perhaps it's 40. If any of you are bylaw savvy. Well done. I hear 30. Does anybody have 30, 30, 30 going once, 30, 30? I am sad to report, though, Julie, who is our co-moderator, has the bylaws handy, and she is going to check right now. Go ahead, Julie. Chapter and verse, please. 50 is, in fact, the number.
There are a number of folks that we're homebound with that I don't think have maybe been able to get the communications. We did due diligence to let them know. I think with the addition of those votes, if we're close, we could probably take a vote of the 46 or 47 we have today and then find 3 or 4 more other votes after that, is how I would consider possibly how we could do this, because I don't think we want to do this again next week.
We have a suggestion that has been supported by two of our members that we go ahead and take the vote today and assume that we will be able to fill out the 50 votes necessary in order to pass. The 50 voters in order to make this legit. Does anybody have an objection to that? Go ahead, Tekla, you had a question. Yes, those of you who are in favor of going ahead and taking the vote today, knowing that we will contact our homebound folks and check in with them, please raise your hands. Aspasia, you're voting twice? Because Chicago. Oh, right. Very good, very good. Those who object to this decision, please raise your hand. Very good, that passes, and so we will, in fact, continue with the meeting. Yay. Very good, my friends. So, welcome to the meeting. Jason, do you want to do a quick little devotional?
We'll call it a prayer. Please join with me in directing our hearts and minds to God. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we pause today to give you thanks, not only for the gifts of our lives and our communities, but for this particular community in Christ known as First Congregational Church of Evanston. Lord God, please guide our hearts and minds, put the words of truth and love upon our lips, help us to be deliberative and thoughtful as we consider the way forward for your church. So we ask your blessing upon this gathering, this meeting, these deliberations, and above all else, your people, in service to your world. We pray this day in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
We move to the proposed 2024 budget. Beth Babbitt-Borst, will you come up and walk us through?
Wow, I feel kind of tall. This has never happened to me before. Good morning, church family. It's great to see you. We are in the season of Advent, of waiting for the birth of Christ, but we are getting our lamps trimmed and burning right now as we get to work on our budget and our ministry for the coming year. So I think you all have a copy of the budget that was sent out, and I'm going to mostly recap comments that were sent out in the reminder email this week, just to refresh our memories here. So first, about the printed budget you have, there were a few things that we wanted to note. We wanted you to know that as the boards and committees, the trustees and the council worked with these numbers. Rather than using 2022 as a comparison, we used 2019. It was pre-COVID numbers, and we realized as we were going through things this year that we're finally getting back to what it's like to be a church meeting in person fully. So that was the first thing. Something that is different this year is that we've split out the capital budget. That used to be reflected as part of the operating, but we are splitting it out so we can get a better grip on what our operating expenses are. So you will see that is the last page of the budget that you have with projects that are planned for this year, and we'll get back to that a little bit in a minute. I also wanted to point out that if you are looking at previous years for comparison, you will see very skewed revenue totals because of the way the McCullum estate was accounted for in 2021 and 2022. The way it hit our books is not really comparable to what we're going to be looking at for next year. So I wanted to just bring those items up, and now we'll get into the meat, what we're really working at programmatically here with our budget. So this year, 2023, as we came back from COVID and really started to be a church that mostly meets in person again, we were shoring up the buildings and then getting our staffing back to a full staffing level after several years of transition. And we are there, thank goodness. Next year is our year to focus on becoming the church. And that was really at the heart of what everyone was thinking of this year as we present this budget. So one of the things that you're going to see is an increase in our program expenses. And as you look at the budget, if you add up the program and the staff, you're coming to about a 75% of our expenses. And I think that's actually with the reparations payment. Yeah, that's about right. So we just found that what had been, we're budgeting in a different way, rather than budgeting for the structure that we've had. We've been putting an eye towards the structure that we're going to be trying and that we've outlined in Becoming the Church that we will look at in a little bit here. You will see that we are funding activities and investments to the wider community, which is part of our Becoming the Church plan. This includes our FCCE Community Center, the partners that are housed there, and some interfaith justice partnerships that we want to explore. And that's under a Justice, Action, and Compassion line, which was rolled into mission giving. So in that line, you will see about a $16,000 provision. We have also budgeted to keep our commitment to reparations that the congregation voted on this year, with a $50,000 payment in that line. There is one area of infrastructure that we started this year that we're going to be continuing the next year, and that is cleaning up our accounting system. With staff transition and going COVID and things changing, the accounting system that we're currently using is a little bit outdated. And so as we started to look at ways that the trustees and the council could get a clearer picture of what our finances are, because our reports are lacking right now, we decided that we were moving to a new accounting system that should give us a better picture. And at the same time, we're going to be doing an internal audit and revamping our account lines to more closely align to the program that we are planning for with our Becoming the Church document. So we brought in a consultant this year who has worked with Madia, and she helped us on the first phase of this project, which was looking at our dedicated accounts, which is our endowed funds, gifts people have given. We had 14. After some research and work, we have gotten that down to 8, which puts us in a better position to keep track of that and actually use the funds that we have in our ministry plan. So we're excited about that. This year we will be working on the accounting system transition. We will be doing an internal audit. And, as I said, updating that chart of accounts to move us forward in a way that is aligned with our programmatic decisions and vision. For the capital budget, if you turn to page 5, you will see we have budgeted $119,000 for next year. This is all planned to come out of the building endowment, and it includes concrete work at the sanctuary, get those steps and things out there safe, and an accessible bathroom, reorganized office and meeting space in the community center. It also includes $45,000 to pay for work that is being done this year and not completed that we anticipate will be billed and paid next year. So, how are we funding this? Well, we fund it through your pledges and gifts, the gifts of people who come into our church, our property usage, and through our ample reserves. We are very, very fortunate that our reserves are abundant. Our October financials showed total assets of about $3.4 million, and unrestricted reserves of about $2.2 million. So that is, we have the capacity to do ministry. We, minus our reparations payment, our operating deficit would be $270,000, which is equal to 12% of our unrestricted reserves, which can be used to pay for things as we see fit. Now, I want you to understand that the trustees and the council understand that this is not sustainable. But we do have the capacity to do this. The money is there to be used for ministry. And we will be looking at ways to minimize that draw down to 5 to 10% in the coming years. But the trustees and the council see this as an investment in the growth of our church and in extending our ministry in a productive and vital way. So that is the budget that we're presenting to you today. There are the ways to reduce our deficit. We always need to be looking at a way to reduce expenses where we can and where it will not negatively impact our ministry. And we need to identify different streams of revenue, innovative streams of revenue, and that's something we have in mind too. We also need you and me and all of us to think about our own giving. If you're not pledging, consider pledging. And if you are pledging, take it into your heart to see if you can do more. And continue to come to church and invite people to church and keep this church as alive as it is and more. So I present that to you. I am open for any questions if there are any. And Tekla, did you have anything you wanted to add? Thank you. All right. Are there any questions?
Hi. I'm on page 3, and there is a section called Capital Improvements. And I'm wondering about current or future plans for elevators.
That's a great question. We do not have that in this year's budget. I think after a year of doing heavy capital improvements, we decided to take a year off from that and focus on program, but the elevators are still in consideration. Because I know some of us feel that that's part of who we are, and being as accessible as we can be is part of, is central to our mission and our welcoming. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Yes, hi. I was just wondering, what formula do you use exactly to determine expenses? I mean, like for example, you've got Jason's salary lower this year or coming year than you did in 2019. I was just wondering how you determine different expenses, what the formula you use.
So I think I'm interpreting your question correctly, Lauren. Forgive me if I'm not. You can correct me. But so what we did was, where we had actual expenses that we knew we could anticipate, like salaries, like cleaning service, like contracts and things that we have, we plugged in what we expect to be paying for next year. The reparations payment is another one of those. Where we had more soft expenses, more program-related expenses, maybe things that weren't fully formulated, we went to staff and committees and boards and got an estimate of what they thought would move us forward into effective ministry for the coming year. So it was that combination of bringing us to the 2024 expenses. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Just a follow-up on Lynn's question about the elevators. Is there like a more specific time frame that you have discussed as to when it might come up for planning that?
Pardon? Yeah. Well, so the question about when, I'm actually going to look to Tekla or Julie or Sarah to give me a update on that. Thank you.
I'm going to take a stab at that. Right before the pandemic hit, we had, and this was when Shay was chair of trustees, we had done a study to see whether the church was in a position to run a capital campaign. And at that time, we thought, yeah, we're in a position, we'd have enough support to potentially run a capital campaign. And the number one thing that was, as you can tell from these questions, that was on the list of what people wanted to do was elevators. And then we hit the pandemic. And at that point, there were enough people that were supporting things that felt like that was a bad time to start a capital campaign, so we put it on hold. And then we got sort of sidetracked into things like needing to replace the senior minister and needing to replace the music director and so forth. But I do think we are well positioned to pick that back up again. And so I am sure you will be hearing from church leadership about the possibility of restarting a capital campaign specifically to support elevators. More questions?
Yeah, is there like a target year for this, or? I know the sermon was about patience today, but.
Appreciate your patience and also feeling impatient about this issue because we want to have an accessible building. The good news is Once the bathrooms here are completed, there will be accessible space in the sanctuary for everybody to visit, to enter, to use the restroom safely and securely. So I feel good about where we're at with this building. The community center is a little more complicated because it's 3 levels, different stops, and we also have so many building partners there, Kier Valley School, Mudlark Theater, Family Promise, that we are looking to do something jointly with those building partners to fundraise together to put elevators in. And so that requires conversations, partnership, deep relationships, but the good news is we're in a good shape with those building partners. I've already begun conversations with, Mudlark has a new executive director. He looks to be a very promising leader, very interested in investing in our community center and adding programs and adding activity there. So hopefully we'll have good partners that we can do this collaboratively. So the conversations will start in terms of planning this year, 2024, I mean, and maybe we'll see a campaign in 2025. So I hope that answers your question.
I would just like to add, too, that I was one of the first ones that really kind of started talking elevators, and it kind of started with the chair lifts being really old, like 30, 40, I don't know, 50 years old. The chair lifts were in really bad shape, and those have all been replaced. The chair lifts in the church and the chair lift in the community center have been replaced and have been used. So it's not an elevator, but it's definitely an improvement of what we had before. So I appreciate that progress being made.
But if we're going to continue to have a Friday lunch program where people come with everything they own, which is not very much, obviously, but still a lot of stuff, we really need the elevator. And the American Disability Act actually requires, although there's no teeth in it, no penalty, that we have, that everything is accessible, quote unquote, which would mean wheelchair and people who are dragging who knows what with them.
I think Tyler has a comment, and also Lima. Lima was right there, too.
Okay, I'm looking up page 2 here under staff expenses concerning health insurance, and I know this is a really touchy subject. I'm not naive to that. Right now, I don't have health insurance due to my lack of a job, but purely looking at this from a budgetary standpoint, I'm just curious as to why we're spending more on our music director's medical insurance in comparison to our pastors, and then comparing that to the medical insurance of our church administrator, which is like $5,000 less. I feel like we could reduce that to, at the very least, to our like a comparable plan compared to our church administrator's health insurance plan, and save us that $5,000 a month, which could go to these necessary programs.
I can answer that as the head of the staff. The church administrator and the music director both have the United Church of Christ insurance program, which is a very good one. Matthew also has a spouse and a partner who's covered under that plan, which is why it's higher than our church administrator. They're very good health insurance plans, and they're very expensive. But that's a commitment we make to our employees, and if we want to reconsider that, we need to have a really thoughtful human resource conversation. That's not in the works for this year, but it's something to consider as we go forward. But we would not want to break that promise to them for the coming year.
Thank you. Lima?
Just back to the elevator question. I'm a trustee, and we talk about this all the time. Can we say the proposed number to install elevators in the community center, just so everybody knows what the nut is that we're trying to cover? Do we have a number?
There had been an estimate at the time, but at this point, I think it's low. I've heard the number $500,000.
Yeah.
You know.
So $500,000. 475, okay. It's a lot of money. And as a trustee, we really, and I'm not against elevators. And if we do a capital campaign, and if it's about elevators, that's great. But I want everybody to understand, this is not a $10,000 fix. It's in the neighborhood of $500,000.
Friends, let me just suggest that these very important points that you are all bringing up are things for us to discuss in the future. Lynn, this is not me telling you not to speak. This is instead me saying, how about one more comment about elevators? Because that is not in today's budget. So we have before us today's or this next year of 2024
Okay, I don't mean
budget.
to delay the proceedings, but these are disabilities legal questions. And even if we have a nice new bathroom being completed soon, those in wheelchairs will still have no access to the lower level of this building, should activities go on there. So I think we need to think about the fact that access for people with disabilities is a central issue in both of these buildings. And I sincerely hope that financing can be found in that direction.
I would say, Lynn, to your question, of course, everyone in this room, especially those of us who have friends and family who are in wheelchairs, 100% is working toward that. I don't think there's any worry there that you need to have. I also think that we are all of a good heart and that we will do that. Other questions about the budget?
Just real quick, I just want to offer a thanks and an endorsement of the fact that we continue to support and put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, as it relates to the staff of this congregation. When we wrote the church profile for the search of Pastor Jason, we did literally write in that document that we believe strongly in the importance of our staff. So I just want to give a quick shout out and endorsement to how we're budgeted and how we continue to budget for the support of our staff. Thanks.
Which certainly speaks to Tyler's good question. Other questions about the budget before us, this budget that we are looking at this very day? First, before I ask for a motion, let us give a round of applause to young Beth. And also to the trustees. They are the wheels under the engine of this train, so thank you so much. Oh, and, you know, Julie has done a pretty good job, too. So also for Julie. Woohoo! I would entertain a motion to pass this budget. Does anyone want to make that motion? I saw Tyler first. And a second from Gary Hardesty. Very good. Right. So this first round of votes will be from you, the members who are sitting here with your beautiful faces. So those of you who are in favor of this budget being passed for 2024, please raise your hands so that we may take a count. Remember, you're only voting for yourself. If you are a proxy, only put up one hand for you, and then we'll do the proxies vote in a minute. Only you. Only you. Do we have a count of 25? 26? It is better to do it right than to rush it. 27, very good. For the proxies, people voting for on behalf of a proxy, please put your hands in the air if you say yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I see 7. All right, very good. That brings to a total of 36. Very good. We will then go to our homebound friends and get their vote to this, but those who are against this, please put your hand in the air. If you are here, hands up for no. Very good. Hands up for no from proxies. Seeing none. Provisionally passed that this will be our budget for 2024. Thank you, thank you. We now move on to an informational couple of moments. I invite Julie and Jason to come up and talk to us about opportunities, expressing God's love in action, compassion, and justice.
But you got to come over here because the camera's pointing here. Good morning. Thank you for that wonderful discussion. All very important questions. Quick update on some of the many ways we invest our hearts and our souls and our talent with people in the community. From the housing and food insecurity, I think everyone heard the great news that thanks to Lynn's leadership, we had a very successful diaper drive this fall. Thank you, Lynn. We are getting ready to send out the schedule for Hilda's Place meals for 2024. So you're going to get an email from me, and you'll see something in the Friday newsletter that supports meals once a month to about 30 people in the community who are part of Connections for the Homeless and Hilda's Place housing program. On the save the date down below, you're going to see that on January 15th, we will be a part of the Walk for Warmth. This is a fundraiser that Interfaith Action of Evanston puts on to raise money so that we, as the broader faith community in Evanston, can open our doors to those needing shelter from now October all the way through April. So between all of the faith partners here, we are providing very important housing because, as everyone knows, we can have very bitterly cold winters. So the money we raise through that walk helps pay for that expanded window. And as part of that window, we will be hosting the shelter. The dates are on the bottom of your agenda, from February 25th to March 24th. So when we get closer to those dates, we'll put out a call for volunteers to welcome either in the evening and help set up, or to help clean up and get people out in the morning for those 4 weeks. That is an expansion that a number of the faith communities committed to this year, going from 3 weeks to 4 weeks, and we said yes, we could do that. And as we look to 2024, stay tuned for news of other ways we are going to partner with our friends in Evanston and Chicago to perhaps do even more or do things differently. So stay tuned for that. Do you want to cover the anti-racism? Okay. Anti-racism. So our anti-racism task force has been busy this fall reconnecting on what's next for our faith congregation. And we've been meeting with 2 consultants that have been helping us with a survey. I think everyone saw a survey we've been promoting both in emails and in the Friday emails to really get a sense of how we can continue our work together in our journey of anti-racism, defining that, and learning how to grow and how to be better neighbors, partners, friends in the community. So with the results of that survey, you're going to be hearing about programs in 2024, all in concert with our continued support of reparations and our continued work so that we can be showing God's love in our relationships with everyone. I just want to say a big thank you to Carrie, who's been helping lead the way in that effort with our anti-racism task force, and Jason, too, who has been taking the leadership there. So now I'm going to let you continue.
And then 2 of the other planks of our justice ministries surround our welcome to the LGBTQ plus community. One of the things that came out of our Becoming the Church initiative was this desire to really claim our welcome boldly and broadly, and to make a name for ourselves in Evanston as a key convener and supporter of the LGBTQ plus community, especially in light of some of the anti-trans legislation, some of the violence that we see in our nation. And so First Congregational has convened an interfaith table to plan for a Faith and Family Pride Fest to take place in Raymond Park in June of 2024. We've got participation from some of the Jewish congregations, from the Lutherans and Methodists and Episcopalians, along with participation from the Park District, support from Alderwoman Claire Kelly of the 2nd Ward. The Skokie Park District is helping out as an advisor. Evanston Pride has joined this table. Our moderator, Sarah Presley, has been a very important voice there. And it looks like this is going to happen, which is exciting, that we can be the host and convener of a very profound and powerful event right here on our front doorstep. And so mark your calendars for Sunday, June the 2nd. We hope to have a lot of excitement and joy and pride in Raymond Park next summer. So that's one of our initiatives around LGBTQ plus welcoming. The last piece, excuse me, concerns our work with immigrations and with migrants. And friends, this is an area where we've fallen short. We have a statement on our back of our bulletin that says we're an immigrant welcoming congregation. And we take that as a policy position, but in terms of what we've been able to do materially or tangibly, it's been not very much. And that's something that has troubled me in the face of, the tremendous, suffering and dislocation. Bob, you mentioned it in your prayer this morning. I think we all see it on the streets of our city. And I think there is a call for us to do more. And so we are looking at, and this is God's timing, the children's Christmas pageant is going to bring this message home. It is the story of two migrants, Mary and Joseph, who are traveling to a foreign area, unfamiliar to them, and they need shelter, they need care, and they need food, and they need someone to open their doors. And of course, we know the innkeeper provides, but the story the children are going to tell us next week, I think, is going to touch your heart. And I hope it inspires this congregation to some action. So we can give money, we can feed people, we can look at how we use our buildings, we can join coalitions, but I'm working with Liz Jones, our Minister of Community Life, to really take a good look at this element of our mission and see if there isn't something more that we could do. So look for that to come in 2024. That'll be something you'll be hearing more about in the months to come. So maybe there are questions about any 4 of these initiatives around our justice work. I just want to say quickly that we can donate to immigrant needs. It's been in the Friday email. So
Yeah.
maybe that can, maybe it remains there, but just a reminder.
Immediately, our friends at Grace Lutheran Church are housing a family from Venezuela right now. They need meals, they need money, they need clothing, they need material supplies. Pastor Laura over there, they are great people, but they are going to need the help of the interfaith community to help support this family. It's one family out of many, but there are a number of other congregations doing similar work, so we can do something towards that end by responding to that email. Yeah.
Also, the Society of Friends over in Greenleaf in Evanston has a family that has some work with us.
Excellent. The Quakers, the Society of Friends on Greenleaf, are likewise hosting, so see Tekla if you want to connect for that family. Okay, I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
Being passed to you now is information about a pilot program that we are going to take on in 2024 that will be brought up not willy-nilly, but will come to our annual meeting in February. Now, let me say just a couple of thoughts before you freak out. First of all, don't freak out. Second, what you are looking at is a proposal to study in action a different way of forming our governing structures here at the church. There's a lot of good reasoning behind it, and a lot of hard work has gone into it. I know when I have been in reception of something new that sometimes I think, but what about the old ways? But what about my favorite group? What if the cat adopters committee is not present on this piece of paper? My friends, if you like to adopt cats and you are in the Adopt a Cat committee, have no fear. your Adopt the Cat committee will be still part of the structure. So to explain a few things, I'm going to turn it back over to young Jason.
I'll just say this. I want to thank the governance working group that prepared this document. So that was our two moderators, Sarah and Julie, Bob Kraus, Nancy Anderson, Jennifer Coyne, Al Cubbage had a lot of very important insight. I know Beth also provided some comment. Maybe I'm missing somebody. I don't have my email in front of me. But this was the product of some discussion that we had during the Becoming the Church conversation, that we have 7 boards and committees, 70-plus volunteers. We have these requirements for quorum that were made for a church in 1975, not a church in 2023, that this is really the right time to look at a new structure. The primary gist of it is going to 3 primary boards. So a board of deacons and community care that would kind of take care of Sunday morning and provide care to our broader community. A board that is called Governance and Administration Board that is going to be, filling the roles of trustees and the human resource side of it to care for our buildings, our community, our finances. And then the third group, which would be Community Life, which would cover a lot of the work that worship, music, and the arts, Board of Christian Education, some of our outreach and evangelism, some of our fellowship opportunities would be housed under that board. The idea being that everybody can find a place to serve the church, that these boards would be well populated and healthy, and that they would all feed into a church council structure, which would be our 4 primary officers of moderator, co-moderator, or moderator, vice moderator, a secretary and treasurer, and then 2 representatives from each of the boards to make sure those voices are heard. So it's trying to be simpler, leaner, better use of the time of our volunteers, but to still maintain the integrity of democratic process, transparency, inclusion, to give people an opportunity to serve, but to also serve wisely and well. So that is the intention behind this document that the governance working group put out. I know you may need some time to digest this and read and think about it, and so to that end, we're going to send an electronic copy out to the entire list tomorrow morning, along with a Google feedback form that you can offer comment and feedback to, or you can email Julie, Sarah, or myself. That always also works. But we are interested in your thoughts. This is the time where we're going to be revising the document. And then what we hope will happen is that when we get to our annual meeting in February, we will have a finished formal document, and we will say, congregation, we ask your blessing upon this new structure to try for 1 year and to see if it works. And if it does, then we will write formal constitutional language that we will then vote on in February of 2025. Working that long view here, and to try that for the future for this congregation. So that's the roadmap. If you want to ask questions now, you may, or you can also offer feedback either email or through the Google Doc. Tekla? Correct. Tekla raises a good point. Also, Tekla was on this governance working group. Sorry I missed you, Tekla. My apologies. No, the idea being is that with your general blessing now in this moment, that then would seek to populate these 3 boards and committees with people from the church. So if you are currently serving as a deacon and you would be willing to serve on the, what is it titled? The Worship and Community Care Board, and Pastoral Care Board, please consider serving in that area. If you are currently a trustee and are interested in continuing that service to the church, please consider raising your hand to serve on the governance and administration. Say it again? Board number 2. I know we haven't settled on the names yet, but these are general language. If you have a lot of passion about our music program, or you're a Sunday school teacher, or you love fellowship opportunities and you want to put your energy into those areas, please consider raising your hand for the Community Life Board or the Education and Activities Board, whatever we decide to name it. If you've got a genius name for these groups, let me know. We've been kind of wrestling with that, what to call these three boards, but that's the plan.
And so one of the
Yeah.
it's for anybody who's listening.
It's all,
No, you have to be actually in the microphone.
To say, one of the goals on this is to have people get down to only being on one committee and not more than one board or committee.
yep.
So traditionally, like all the different boards that we had, there's like around 6 people in every group. I'm just wondering, does this represent this, the 8 to 12 on each board? Is that a significantly smaller number of people that will be like serving on these boards than the way we have it right now? And the other thing is, I don't see anything about the cat adoption committee out here anywhere. So.
It's a new initiative, Robin.
Yes. Rhonda makes a good point about the number of people that are currently serving. So instead of having 7 boards and all of these positions, we're trying to consolidate. I did a little math, and I looked through the roster of church members and church volunteers. We have about 40 people that are actively serving as a Sunday school teacher on a board, doing this, doing that, being a deacon, being a reader, being involved in a trustee. So I feel like we have enough people to populate, 3 boards of 10 people, but not 7 boards with 70 positions. And this also deals with the question of doubling up of, I'm a trustee and I'm a deacon and I'm a Sunday school teacher. And, you can still be involved, but you don't necessarily have to be on a board to do so. And we are also empowering all of our boards that if they wish to create a subcommittee, like people have asked about our task force or other initiatives that come up, that those can be empowered, but we'd like to have a place for them to report to be involved with, to be supported by. So I'm thinking here about the Anti-Racism Task Force, which would be supported by the Community Life Board, which is where some of our mission work also lies. So there'll be avenues for these things to be heard and to be supported, and also for accountability measures, then to ultimately report to the church council, which receives the reports from the 3 boards and acts on behalf of the entire congregation. Yes, and we also plan to change the quorum to make it realistic, We have good members who are involved and active, but getting them all here on one Sunday can be a challenge. So to just be more realistic, and I think we had it set at 25% of the membership, which is more realistic. So, Nick.
Well, no, but Congregational Meeting is not February 2nd, it's February 4th. There'll be multiple communications coming out.
Okay.
I just want to let you know now.
Duly noted. I was probably looking at 2023 on my Google Calendar.
I feel embarrassed to be so annoying, but I noticed some typographical errors on this thing. So if someone wants to email it to me after the meeting, I could fix it, or I could point it out to whoever would want to fix it.
Thank you, all copy editors. You have a special place in heaven. Thank you, everybody.
Many thanks for all the hard work that has gone into this. And again, please do go ahead and email any of us with your thoughts, questions, observations, or vague misgivings. Is there anything else for the good of the church that we need to raise up right now? All right, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Sharon Fiedler says, let's get the heck out of here. And a second from Laura. All those in favor say goodbye. All those opposed say sit down. Very good. Thanks, y'all. Take care.